Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good day to everybody. All right, I've got a big crowd today. Love it. Okay, everyone, thanks for coming today. I'm Will. Um, as per usual, Sabrina, do we have any pre-submitted questions? I didn't see an email for one, so I'm gonna assume we don't.
No, we do not.
Okay, wonderful. So please feel free to either you can type your question out in chat, you can type your question out in the QA thing, or just use the raise hand function and we'll call on you and you can ask your question and we will reply to it. All right, let me go ahead, John. What's your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me? You are muted, sir. You're muted now.
Okay, okay. Can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
I can hear you. Yep, go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm trying to I create a job schedule, and I tried to delete it, and then it said the flow is not found, and they give me a warning, and then the only thing I have is dismiss. It does not allow me to delete my a job schedule.
Hmm. What I would say is possibly the flow that you connected to the job itself has been marked deleted. So what I would do is let me create a scheduled job really quick just so I can show you this. I'll just pick one. So when you actually try to go and click disable, it prevents you from doing it. Was that correct?
No, when I just tried to right click on it, it said the job flow is not found. It give me a warning, and that's it. And I have to, and then that's the only thing I have to click on is dismiss. So I cannot even
Oh,
like click on it.
then you know what? Okay, if we got into a really bad state, I would just clear this thing. I'd just run a SQL query to clear this thing out of the data to get it cleared out. And we can do that if we can use our query editor. So if I go to a designer folder, I can go to right click, go to other query editor. And the table you're looking for here is believe it will be job schedule is the table name. Spelled correctly. Yep. So here's our job schedule. This should be the one I just created. If I look at its entity name, I can see. Yep, there's new job. So what I would do is probably mark this thing deleted using an update query and then restart
Okay.
Service Host Manager. If you can't right click it and delete it, likely that'd be the easiest way just to get it cleared out of your view.
Okay.
And
Okay.
job schedule is the table where those things live at. So you could either do an actual delete or just do an update and mark it deleted. Either way, it'll clear it out of the UI.
Okay. So how'd you get to here again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our query editor. So I'm on the My Apps folder, but you can be on any designer
Okay.
folder. Right click, go to the other category, and then you'll have query editor as an option.
Okay.
And so this is just it's not a replacement for SQL Server Management Studio. It is just to give you easier access than having to actually build flows and put raw SQL statements in them. to be able to interact with the database backend directly.
So is this on version 7 too?
Yes, it is on version 7 as well.
Okay.
Yes,
I see it. All right, thank you.
absolutely. All right, we have a question here from one of our anonymous friends. I'm having issues to install decisions. I knew there is a dependency to install .NET, but when I'm trying these steps saying it can't be installed, likely this is probably something better handled in support than on this call. But what I would say is, I mean, you might have to restart. Usually when you install .NET, you do need to restart the host machine after it's installed. So it could be that it's not fully installed because you haven't restarted. And I'm on the doc site, and I would, I'm sure you're using it, but just ensure you're using our installation guide here, which I'll drop in the chat. If you're on the call right now, I can't actually know who you're. So if you want to talk about this, please feel free to use the raise hand feature. It doesn't show me your name when you type the question, as it shows you as anonymous attendee. Okay, you go ahead. You can go on. You can go off mute now. I see you're off mute, but I'm not hearing anything. Yeah. Varalakshmi. Yes, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, if you're speaking, I'm not hearing anything, though. It does show that you're off mute. It's not coming through, unfortunately. Correct. I do not hear. Sabrina, you can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, likely that's going to be better handled by just interacting with our support team, because they can support you through the particular error messages you're getting. What I would advise you to do is shoot a quick email into support@decisions.com with your error message, and someone will jump on and look at that with you. You bet. And yeah. What other questions do we have today? All right, here we go. From George, I have a page with report viewer that a client sees when they log in. Is there a way that they can delete entries on that page? Currently, when I click on an entry, it says no actions. It all depends on the type it all depends on the type of the entity itself, George. What's the data type?
So it's just a string. So it's a few different. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
So is there any way I can share my screen or?
Okay. Unfortunately,
no.
no.
So basically, on the report view, it's just a few different fields. So it's going to be like requester, the company name of the client is logging in as, employee name. Right. In this case, fob number, because they're using this form to log in different fobs that they're activating, created on date status.
Right.
So I just wanted to see, is there a way, let's say we have multiple entries, if they can click on it and delete them as opposed to?
You definitely can. Can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I need you to help me understand is I'm looking at a designer folder named Access Rights POC. And in this, I've got a couple types of things, but I have a data structure called access point. That's a folder entity data structure. Can you find the data structure that your report is built of and tell me what type it is? That'll determine how I help you get a delete action created.
So it says that same one, folder entity data structure.
Your data type is a folder entity data structure?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. This makes it trivial to do then. What I want you to do is right click this, go to edit define data structure,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see on the bottom right hand side these actions: show add with data, show delete, show edit. If you select show delete and then go to a report of one of those things, which I have here, they're on the right side, you'll get a delete action, which will prompt you with this view and allow you to delete the thing.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and to just likely these entity actions are new to you. So just to, there's a question that will come next, right, which is how do I add custom actions?
Mm-hmm.
And just to quickly touch on that without going into super detail is, this is access point. You get a thing called a configuration folder when you build a data type in decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I go into access point, I can build a thing under user action here. I can create a user or a group action, which is select one or select many. And in this, I'm going to call this, custom action one. I'm only telling you this because I know eventually that your requirement will be for a custom delete, where like only admin users can delete or something like that, right? And I'm just going to put a really ugly form in this thing. Yeah, form's just gonna have a single button here. And then what I'm gonna do, you'll see, is I'm going to save this. I'm gonna come back to that report I have. I'm gonna right click and I'll have edit, delete, and custom action one. So you can use the workflow engine to extend the set of actions available on your entities using just building flows that handle whatever you need them to handle.
Cool.
So you made a good
Awesome.
choice with picking an entity because you get edit and delete basically for free. And the only reason you need to modify these is if you want to move away from the default, UI. So in this example, custom action one could be a custom edit action where we build our own form and don't rely on the decision's default property grid.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about this I can answer for you?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, got a question here from Carlos, which is, does a dashboard published in a folder have any indication of where the design of said dashboard is located? Does a dashboard published in a folder have any indication of where the design of said dashboard is located? The dash. So what I think you're asking about here is when I put a page on a folder. I'm on this access management folder right now. And on that, I have two pages: management dashboard and folder view. Management dashboard is a custom page. If I want to view those custom pages, I have to actually look at the hidden contents inside of the folder. So I can go to folder view, and I can come and edit my report, and I can change the report, and I can say show me everything, including things that are hidden. Those are excluded from the UI by default. And I get a thing here called a page data. And if I right click, I can edit that page data, and I can find the page that this thing is pointed at. And so now, Carlos, your question, the page data object knows the page it's related to, because it really just keeps an ID to that page here so that it knows what page to load under the management dashboard tab. Is there something more specific to your question?
Your answer is specific and clear. This is what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Oh, this is it right here, what I just pulled up?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, basically at the end of the day, we generate an entity in the folder of a type page data. And all decisions does is when it loads a folder, the folder service says, give me all the page data entities in this folder. And then for each page data, it has an ID to the page. And so the reason you can't see these is just because they're hidden. And again, now I don't know if we ever added a entity view hidden. I'd ask for this, view hidden items. No, that's not what I wanted. Because I know. Why is that? Oh, that's irritating. View hidden, see all results. In it. Well, anyways, the only tricky piece there is go to folder view, click the gear, change report, change with hidden. And as soon as that is done, you'll be able to see the page data as well, or as well as any other hidden pieces.
Very clear. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help. Okay, Rita has a question, which was, what does the step get export module data do, and what inputs does it expect? Okay, let me create a folder for myself here. All right, so I'm gonna build a flow, and I'm gonna find the step get export module data, which I'm sure I can't search for, but let's try. Oh, interesting, get export module data. Okay. Now, likely this step is used in our import-export flows. Export module data. So the first things first is, let's see, do we have step help for this? We don't, unfortunately. Okay. Now this takes an ID and type name. So let's go ahead and let's look to see if we can't find this step's use somewhere. So what I'm going to do is use the flow structure report. That will let me see all steps used in all flows. And I'm going to find where this step gets used at, likely in our designer repo or import export flows. So I'm going to go to System Administration, System Tools, Flow Management. And then one of the rightmost tabs on the top here will be Flow Structure. I'll click Flow Structure. It's going to take a second to load here. Okay, and this is every flow and every step in every flow. So I can come, I'm going to use the step type information on get export. So if I look at step information, flow step type is get export module data. Let me search here as get export module data. Wonderful. All right, so now I can see the flows that this is a part of. Export wizard. So I'm going to go and right click and edit the export wizard flow. Get export module data. So this takes in type name, which would be the type of thing you're exporting, and ID. Okay, so this gives you about to export. And if I use Data Explorer and I click to export, okay. All right, interesting. So this is the step that gives us the module association of the thing that we're clicking on, and that's why we have ID and type name. So let's see if we can't get this to work and prove out how this works. I'm gonna go create I'm gonna name call this thing to export. Just build a simple flow here. And then I'm going to capture this thing's ID. And then in flow one, all right, I'll come back here. Now to export, I'll give it that ID. Now, does it need type name? Probably. Let's see if it blows up if I don't give it type name. Okay. Type was not found. So now I have to find the type. So what is the type it wants? It's probably, let's find it. Type name. So let me find this thing in entity header data so I can find its type name. So I'm going to look at our entity header data table. And what did I name that thing? To export. And let me find entity type name is element registration. So come back here. I'm just trying to figure out what this does and we'll talk back through it. I think the bigger question is what are you trying to use this step for might be the more important question. Okay, so view input output data. So this is what it gives me. It gives me the type, its ID, create on date, modified date, name, description, and folder path. Now we use that in our export wizard flow as this first step to handle exporting, so that when you do an export, so for example, if I were to attach this thing to a project, so to export, I can go ahead and I can import export, I can add to a project. I can say this is new custom project. And click continue. It'll be a part of that project. So that here, if I come and do that again, I can click export and it says, hey, do you want to export the single item or the entire project? So it's handling some of the, it's handling some fetching and some of that data available in the export wizard flow. Do you have Rita, what questions about this step? In addition to that, can I answer for you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, no, I was just asking because I know the step like get all the module names, it like returns the name of all the modules. So I wanted to know if this step particularly could help figure out like what module this flow is a part of.
You can get that information without using this step. So is that really the need you have? Is you want to get a list for a flow, you want to figure out what module it's a part of?
Yeah, like an automated step where like,
yeah,
you don't have to pick from a list, like it just automatically gives you the current module.
Yeah, so I would do that differently. And what I'm going to do is just use a fetch entity step here. I'll say find flows module, right? I'm going to use our step fetch entities here. And the type I'm going to find is going to be module resource. And in module resource, I'm going to add, and it will be entity ID. And let me just connect this here and just make a quick, it'll be, I'll call this, whatever, ID, probably is not gonna like that name. I'll map in ID to entity ID, and then I can debug this. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna come back and copy the ID of my thing. So get flow ID and put that in, save this as a unit test, run this test, and there we go. This is so what I've done is I've actually just fetched the module resource table data, which is where we save project association data at.
Yeah.
And it comes back, you'll see there's a module name property on that object, and its name is new custom project. And so all I'm doing is fetching on the entity ID. So entity ID is the ID of the thing. Module name is the project it's associated with. And you can get a list of all modules by just doing like a distinct list type query on module name. That'll give you all the modules, or we use projects and modules synonymously. But if you need to build a flow that will fetch a flow and give you its project, or fetch all flows and give you the project for each one, I would leverage this fetch entities pattern, fetching module resource, which I'll show you again, to get that information and not use the internal service steps necessarily. So yeah, so type name module resource, fetch criteria, entity ID equals. Does that help? Does that help you?
Yeah, so the fields that the inputs it takes in is type name and the ID, right?
For the get export step?
No. For this fetch entity step, what are the two inputs that it takes?
Yeah, this one is type name. So you think about fetch entities is our default SQL query builder step, right? And so type name is like the table you want to fetch from, right? And so it's module resource. And then under fetch criteria here, I can add more if I want. But what I did is I came add new, and I found, and I know that entity ID, I just know the object model, but I know entity ID is the ID of the flow or the rule or the form. So entity ID equals, and then that gives me a new input, and I can map in the input, and then I can tell the entity ID where to get its value from using select from flow.
Okay, but is there a way to do it so that the ID is automatically given, like without having to type it in?
Yeah, sure. Like you could fetch, the question is, how are you getting the data? So I could fetch, we could put together a really kind of silly flow here. I could fetch all flows, right? So flows are things called element configurations in our world. So an element registration is a flow, a form, a rule. I could pass that into a for each step. From the for each step, I could fetch its project and do something.
Oh, no, I meant like as a constant.
As a you could do it as a constant, sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Like
what I was wondering.
on this step, I mean, I'm doing select from flow because I assume it's dynamic, but you could say this is a constant and then type in the ID if that's what you're after. But
Yeah.
that implies you are typing it in every time, or it's the same. That flow ID is not changing, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see here. Done and done. Hey, Andrew, yes, it should have that we should have step info for that step, please. To your question about documentation. Okay, what else? Who else has got questions? Jared, what trainings do we have coming up? Let's see here.
We have, I think in a couple of weeks, we have beginner training at the end of the month.
All right, so July. Oh, yeah, so we got intermediate training next week, then we got beginner, then a new professional cert, some British beginner training.
Yep.
Cool. Chris's question, the flow report you just showed, is there a way to do a similar report in SQL? Not that report. That's an in-memory data source. And just so you, a quick tip about how you can figure that out. I'm going to come back to flow management. I'm going to come back to flow structure here. And this is that flow structure report that you can see all step use across all flows. Unfortunately, Chris, this actually has to load the flows up. It actually opens all the flows and gets their step list out. And you can usually confirm if a report can be used, if it actually queries the database or not. You can click edit, click the gear icon, click edit. And if the view SQL control is grayed out, like it is on my screen right now, that not always, but almost always, like 99% of the time, means that this is an in-memory data source. Otherwise, you can actually look at the SQL and figure out what tables decisions is calling to surface that data back. So this report specifically is a in-memory data source that you can't get this information out of SQL directly. Any other questions about that?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can now.
No, I think that explains that thing. Find myself wondering, could I use that to track down stuff that's in use, although perhaps I might have better leverage because my access to production is limited, but they do let me query the database at will. Although it's probably better off, I'm probably going to be better served focusing on actual flows and deployment and see if I can track them down, because I think those are expressed in the module resource table you were just describing there before. I've been around that area,
yes.
and I could probably track down rogue flows that we want to get rid of more effectively that way.
Yeah, you could, sure. You can leverage module resource and module resource dependency in concert if you need to figure out if something is dependent or is a dependency or a dependency, or used by or uses something else to try to identify orphan things.
Well, yeah, and I think that's, yeah, I think I have some of that. I think I have those two tables linked together somewhere as something I wanted to pursue, but had to put down because of other fires that erupted. So I have to get back to that. But thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Anything else from anyone? Nothing? No new questions? Nothing just completely random that you'd like to know more about? There's plenty of random stuff in our product. Why something is the way it is, how it works. A complaint. Maybe not so many complaints. Yes, Rita. We post these on our YouTube channel, usually same day with a question list. Can we drop a link to the YouTube channel in the chat, Serena? Shout out to I think Jimmy, our first subscriber, right? Is that right?
Yes.
See, we made it. We have a subscriber. Oh, we have 4 subscribers now. We keep that up. We're gonna be able to leave our day jobs behind and start YouTubing. But yes, we post them on our YouTube site with a question list, so you can have that available. Yeah, I asked Adam to send you a pair of Decision socks. Actually, we have these. We're bad at swag here, and so we have Decision socks. So I asked him to send you some socks.
I would be the envy of all my coworkers.
Yeah. Okay, well, guys, if that's everything for today. Hey, Josh, yes, that is decisions.com/events. And you can see all of our upcoming trainings and then register for those trainings using that link. I'll post this in the chat for easy consumption. Oh, I've been chatting to panelists. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. How do I change that? Everyone. But yeah, this is a list of all of our upcoming trainings. If you have any questions about what training entails, please reach out to your customer success rep, and they can organize a call or a meeting with training, as well as if there's discussion for needing custom training. Your customer success rep can handle all those types of questions for you. And if you'd like to, if you don't know your customer success rep and you like to connect with them, please email me, and I'll email me, and I'll make sure that they schedule a call to sync up with you and make sure we have a plan in place to support you. Intermediate cert. Jared, do you know when we expect to do another intermediate cert?
We don't have an intermediate cert. We have an associate cert, and I'm looking at the calendar right now, and it looks like the next one will be October 4th is when that one will come.
Okay.
Great, thanks. So associate is the one after beginner.
Or
Or-
so it goes our beginners our first track, then it goes to
Right.
our intermediate, and those two are not certification courses. Those are just to get your feet wet in the product and get familiar with the
Okay.
product. Then after that, then we have our fundamental certification, our first level
Right.
certification, associate and
That's what I have
professional.
now. Okay.
Gotcha,
So
yeah.
fundamental associate is next. So okay, gotta wait for October. Okay.
Mhm.
So,
Let me
put it
see
on
if
my
I can pull
calendar.
that thing up since we're talking about it. That most current like training track diagram we have.
Are you able to do it out of order, or you must do?
You have to do it. The certifications build on each other, so you do have to
Okay.
do it in order. Any custom certification. So if you have any I know it's a long time until the associate cert. You'd have to talk to Eric or Brian, and Eric's email is eric@decisions.com, and see if we can do some type of custom training because we do offer that, but he's the one who would have to orchestrate that and organize it.
I think I can wait till October. It's not a.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, just so everyone's aware, and this is our current, I believe this is the most up-to-date training pathways slide in terms of the series of steps here. Is this correct, Jared? Is this current? Some of this might be to come.
No, yes, yeah. Some of this is to come. I think everything up to the professional certification we do, but solutions architect, certified trainer, those are all things that are still in development.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions about anything? Okay. Well, if that's the case, we'll go ahead and call it a day then. Thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate all the questions. And we will be back tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. Great. Thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon.